Hi, my name is Rachel. I'm from RAYR Tattoos, that's my studio, and you are listening to CIDI 99.1 radio. So I've always been very passionate about art, always very artistic, a lot into arts and crafts as a child. I have a science background, so I did pre and applied science at Champlain College. And just one day I was accompanying a friend at a tattoo, and I just decided that it was really interesting, and the tattoo artist at the time was looking for an apprentice. So I started making a portfolio of drawings and got myself an apprenticeship tattooing, and realized that I was super passionate about it, really loved it, and I mostly specialize in dot work and fine lining when it comes to tattooing, but I also am certified to do permanent makeup and another thing that's called paramedical tattooing, which is tattooing on scar tissue. So I have my formations in all of those things, but I really do focus mostly on floral pieces and dot work pieces. Anything that's really feminine and delicate is really my style. And particularly one style that I would really like to do a lot more of is called ornamental. That's sort of like my chest piece, you can see. So it's like very fine, very delicate. It's an older traditional style of tattooing, and it's mostly black work. But I do enjoy doing color too. So I'm a little bit all over, but mostly when it comes to anything delicate and feminine, that's my thing. I did my apprenticeship in Sherbrooke at the shop that's called Forever Ink. There was 9 artists at the time in that shop, so it was pretty cool because there was a lot of different styles, a lot of different people that you could ask questions. And the thing about tattooing is that there's not a specific way to do it. There's a lot of different techniques, a lot of different machines, and then a lot of different styles as well, which just require different techniques. So I feel like with tattooing, it's a lot of experimentation and self-learning. Like, you just have to do trial and error sort of and just get the hang of it. So it's with a lot of practice, and practice makes perfect. So I did a short apprenticeship at Forever Ink, and at the time I actually returned to university. And then I realized that I just wanted to pursue art, so then I got back into tattooing and started working in Cowansville. And then eventually I met my colleague Cynthia, who was an esthetician, and she worked with Marie-Julie, who's a piercer. And we just kind of clicked and really got along good, and I felt that Granby would be a better place for clientele than Cowansville. So that's why I ended up moving to Granby, and since I came to Granby, I really like it. When I first got with my 2 colleagues, we were actually at a locale on the Principal, but it was really huge, and it was a little bit too big for us. So then my colleague, she started looking around, and she ended up coming across this place, and when we visited it, it just seemed perfect. The setup, the space, we had enough rooms for all of us, and it wasn't too huge either. So that's how we came here, and I really set everything up myself. I did all the painting. We had to install the sink. Over time, I've just come to collect a lot of prints from artists that really inspire me. I'm really into like insects and butterflies particularly, and stones, and I find it all kind of ties into that tattoo vibe. So that's kind of how I started the decoration. Honestly, I don't know why I was really interested in tattooing. I think it might have to do with my dad. As a child, like, he was fully tattooed, and I would go with him to appointments. So it was always something that just really fascinated me. And just the world of tattooing, the people, was just always something that I was intrigued by and thought was super cool. And then, like I said, I just sort of fell into my lap that the artist at the time was looking for an apprentice, and it just worked out that way. But I do like dabble in other mediums of art too, and I really like other art forms as well. But there's just something special about tattooing because it's like there's not a lot of things that are permanent forever, and that's what's kind of cool, is that you're putting your art on someone and they're really going to carry it with them for the rest of their life, and that's a cool feeling to have someone be happy with what you just made for them. When it comes to just my own personal creations, because often I get requests from clients, but sometimes here I just put out some of my own designs as well. When it comes to my own designs, I really focus on nature. So again, like florals, animals, insects a lot. I really like that. And I don't think that there's really a particular meaning behind it. I just think it's very aesthetic, and it's just something that I really enjoy drawing. When it comes to clients asking specifically for design, I would say the main subject is often family. A lot of tattoos are to do with children or lost family members, or their brothers and sisters, their parents. Like, it's often memorial tattoos that are really, really common, I would say. It's definitely hard to choose because I do have several that I really like, but so I would say that this is probably my favorite piece. I called it Miss Universe, and it's just, again, it represents femininity. I thought it was really cool, the concept of putting the galaxy in her hair, and again, it's all dot work, so my specialty. And I really recently started trying to get more into faces and in the new traditional style. So that's why I would say probably recently that would be one of my favorite pieces. Definitely I have several, and some of the prints that I have in my shop are from the artists that really do inspire me. A lot of artists that I really like are from Italy, but I find them all on social media, specifically Instagram. There's a lot of really cool artists. But I would say probably my all-time favorite artist would be Angelo Parente, which is the 2 tarot card prints there. He did those. And I just absolutely love his black work style. He does a lot of like dot work and floral pieces too, but he always has like sort of a dark Halloween-y side to his work. And it's really along the lines of the same style that I do, so I really, really am inspired by him. There is definitely a learning curve, and when you start off, you don't completely understand all the techniques. You have to get used to just staying in the same depth in the skin. So for sure, like when you first start off, you'll have more imperfections in your tattooing, and that's why it's super important to tell people that you are an apprentice and that you are still learning. So there's definitely been some pieces at the beginning where I wasn't particularly extremely proud, but you know, again, like it's all about learning and experience. As you get more and more experience, you just become better. And so now I feel like I don't have that same stress as at the beginning of feeling like, okay, this is super stressful if I mess up. But I do try to be proud of all that I do, so we try to avoid any failures. If I were to give advice to someone, I would say it's super important to get a proper apprenticeship. The first things that you really, really need to learn and understand is cross-contamination, how to properly disinfect and keep everything sterile. And if you don't understand that, you shouldn't be getting into tattooing. That's like number one thing. And then working with other artists, you can just learn so much from their experience, from their techniques. And again, like it's building your own techniques as well. So looking at others and then developing your own, that's really the best way to get into it. So overall, I don't find that COVID has had a huge impact on business, except for the times where we went into lockdown and actually got shut down. So in total, I believe I was shut down for 2.5 months. So obviously that did have a big impact, but I basically just put all my clients on a waiting list, and then once we were allowed to reopen, I was able to tattoo them. So I didn't technically lose clients, but it was just that time where everybody, I think, was struggling during the lockdown. But other than that, like other than wearing masks and stuff, it hasn't really affected my business because it's already super sterile and clean. So I was already disinfecting everything. I was already wearing a mask during my tattoos. So I don't find it really has had an impact. And some people even tell me that they think that there's even more clientele because there hasn't been a lot of activities people can do, so then they have extra money to get tattoos. So it definitely hasn't had a huge negative impact other than during the lockdown. Already it's amazing how much it's evolved, just like in the machines, going from coiled machines, the old school ones that were super noisy, to these cordless, noiseless machines that you can adjust the stroke length and everything. Like, it's just amazing how it's already evolved. And in the future, I think it'll just keep getting more and more innovative. Already, like I said, we have no cords anymore and stuff. It's super easy to travel now and tattoo because you don't even need electricity, because you can just have your battery powered machine and everything. So that's super cool. I've been hearing a lot recently that in Europe they're banning colored inks. So who knows if that might come here. I find that kind of interesting. I hope it won't happen because colors are awesome, but that's funny that that's happening in Europe right now. But yeah, I think that what's interesting is that tattooing, the taboo behind it was often associated with criminals or people in prison, and now I think that the majority of people do have tattoos, whether it's just a small one or multiple, and it's mostly to do with just art and beauty now, where it's not associated with criminal activity and stuff. So just that evolution is pretty cool to see. Definitely social media has had a huge impact, and it's just amazing because social media just allows you to get your name out there and worldwide, which that's what really is cool. Before, it used to pretty much be like walk-ins, or you'd maybe get a telephone call for an appointment, but it was mostly just people that would walk by your shop and then come in and maybe look in a book and choose a tattoo. Whereas now with social media, it's so easy to communicate. Personally, I do almost all my consultations online, so I don't even actually meet the person before they come in for the tattoo. We just discuss by message, and then that's it. So with Instagram and TikTok and everything, now you can really become like world famous with your art, and it's a whole nother level. And just the fact that you can get inspired by the art of other artists as well because of the visibility, because of social media, is really, really cool. So all my drawings I actually do on my iPad, but I just use the super simplest application, which is called Sketchbook. I'm not in Procreate, I'm not in Photoshop or anything. It's really just a few brushes, super simple. But what's super cool about working with the iPad is that you can have all your layers. You can easily erase, adjust, size things differently. So that's why it's a lot more practical than just working on paper. But I don't get into the crazy, complicated stuff either. So right now, the machine that I mostly use is the Cheyenne Soul Unlimited. It's a German machine, it's cordless. So it's super fun. It's very gentle on the skin, so because I don't do a lot of big packing, like color and a lot of like filling in, it really is great. As soon as I do need to do more color or filling in, I'll switch to my other machine, which is the Valhalla. So that one hits the skin a bit harder, so it's better for packing. But I really like my cordless machine because it's just so practical and versatile and delicate on the skin. So when it comes to fine lining and dot work, it's perfect. Well, it's funny that you say that, because that's one thing that I find awesome about tattooing is that I don't have those days where I'm like, I don't want to come in. I'm always super excited to come in, super excited about the projects, because every day is different, because you're doing a different piece, you're with a different person who has different stories to tell. So even though like you're still tattooing, it feels different every day, and just that creativeness really makes it fun. So I don't really have those days where I'm just like, oh, I don't want to. Of course, I have days where I'm more tired than others. Like sometimes if I'm doing like a huge piece, 5 hours nonstop, my hand starts getting sore, or my back or my neck starts getting sore. In those cases, like I would say, like I just take a little break, just sort of relax a little bit, and then get back into it. What really helps me too is sort of distracting my client. So often I'll either put like podcasts on or a movie for my client, so it sort of takes off a stress for me, because I know that my client's just like enjoying their movie or whatever, so I don't feel like a pressure to have to make a conversation throughout. I can just sort of focus on my work, and it's a lot easier that way. Before I start work, I always make sure that everything's sterile. So usually at the end of the day, I do wipe down everything and then mop and sweep. But just before, I usually will just give a quick wipe down, make sure everything's clean, wash my hands, and then I start setting up, get out my drawings, print out my images, and then usually my client will arrive. We'll discuss a bit, I'll have them fill out the consent forms, and then we'll get into it. I would say that I would really like people to know that tattooing is about art. It is about beauty, and there's still some of the older generations that can be judgmental towards people with tattoos, and I think it's just sort of to get over that taboo of it's associated with bad people, because it's not. And a lot of good people have tattoos, and a lot of people just have tattoos for the beauty, for the art, and I think that's important to know, that it can really be a positive thing in people's lives. It can help them with depression, it can help them with self-image, it can help them just sort of grieve a loved one, or show love towards their family. So I think it's important to know that is what tattooing really is about. Well, I do have plans. I do know what I'd like to start doing. I'd like to start doing some conventions, some tattoo conventions, and like start competing, because at conventions you always have like a contest, tattoo of the day, best dot work piece, etc. I'd really like to get into that, and then when you get into that, you really start meeting a lot of other artists and getting your name out there too, which is cool. I also have some plans to do some skateboards, paint some skateboards. That'll be a first. I bought some recently, so that'll be cool. So I always want to push myself to be better, push myself to keep taking on new challenges. Yeah, that's a good question. It can be very similar and it can be very different. It really just depends. Some people, when they ask for a commission piece, it's very specific, and they really want to have all their specific elements in the piece. Whereas other people, they might have like a general idea, and then just sort of be like, okay, you can have creative freedom with my general idea. So in that case, it really is more like when I'm just drawing my own stuff, I have more of a freedom. Whereas if it's more specific, then I feel like, okay, I really have to stick to what this person wants. I don't have a specific idea when I start drawing. That's what I find funny, is that I think some people think that maybe you just have a specific thing in your head and then it just comes out. Not for me. I really have like ideas, and then as I start drawing, it just starts changing and evolving, and I often really do go back and change things over and over again until I'm really satisfied with it. So if you want to follow me on social media, it's RAYR Tattoos, RAYR Tattoos, on Facebook or Instagram. Facebook is really where you can get a consultation and talk to me, whereas Instagram is really to see my portfolio if you really want to see all my work. My shop is at 369 Boulevard Leclerc West in Granby, right on the corner of St. Hubert and Leclerc West. super easy to find, some big tattoo signs outside, so feel free to stop by.